The MSVR Focus Cup is brought to you in association with Mintex, breaking with tradition. Brands Hatch, the venue for our 7th event of the 2021 season. Focus Cup reaching here with championship leader Simon Rudd, head of second place man Gary Mitchell. Scott Parkin is in third from Lewis Ryan and Spencer Fortag, and Barry is down in the paddock with Scott Parkin.
Scott, didn't see you out at Croft there because you had other commitments, but welcome back to Brands Hatch for a double-header event this weekend. Event 1 coming up, qualifying, how'd it go?
Yeah, pretty good. I knew from testing yesterday that the grid were going to be really tight. Everybody were really close. You know, a couple of tenths here could be 2 or 3 rows on the grid. So I knew that we had to keep it clean. And the good thing about Brands being a short lap, you get a lot more attempts at it during qualifying. But 15 minutes is not a long time, especially if you're going to chuck a pit stop in there, you know, to try and check your tyre pressures, make sure the car's all good. So, you know, you're looking at what, 10, 12 laps. So did a few laps, seemed all right. Then we had a red flag, somebody had an incident with the car and that needed to be recovered. But luckily I'd put a good banker lap in. I think when I came in I were in P3 for that. Quite close to Gary, so I knew that I had the pace in the car to probably jump him. Whether I could have got to Simon or not were a different story, but I was still confident that I could at least get closer. Went out, did another really good lap, jumped up to P2, but then just bits of traffic, sloppy laps, you know, trying a little bit too hard in some places, but got a good idea of where to be on the track for race 1, so yeah, it worked out all right really, and P2 were probably as good as I could have expected. This is Simon's local track. His dad reckons that he's been here when he was 7 months old, so yeah, a few years before me, definitely.
So, new driver on the grid, always good to see, and on a good weekend as well weather-wise, so tell us, how did you become involved with this championship, and what tempted you to come and have a go on the grid?
Well, I've always been interested in driving fast, and I watch Formula 1 all the time, F2, F3, follow racing all the time, and a little bit of karting when I was younger, but I didn't have the money to get in. But I said, let's take the plunge and let's try, have a go. So this is my local track, so I decided, so, you know what, why not come down, see how it goes, and just dip my foot in it really.
Is this a bit of a test case for a possible future venture as well?
Yeah, definitely. So let's see how this one goes and then take it one race at a time really.
I suppose it takes some of the stress out. You don't have to prep the car or anything, it's done for you. So you can sort of focus on what you're doing. Karting, quite a bit different discipline, isn't it, in some ways? So it's quite a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. I did a couple of kartings with my church, but apart from that, this is my first race, so nothing serious.
PJ, great to see you back. Now, we saw you last year, full campaign last year, and you had a little dabble beginning of this year. So have you decided to have a go for this weekend?
Yeah, my full-time job's DJing and in the nightlife industry. Obviously, with COVID, we've not been able to open, so I had a lot of free time last year, and that allowed me to get into it. Something I always wanted to do. Had a really good season last year, come third overall. Took the rookie champion trophy. But the clubs are reopened now, and it's like, my time's just a bit divided between trying to do everything I want to do. So I'm just going to come and do the rounds I want to do. But I love Brands Hatch, probably my favourite track on the calendar. So I wanted to be back for this weekend. So I've flown from Ibiza to be here this weekend.
Now, Callum, I was looking at the driver list coming to this event, and I recognised the name Eason, which to many of our viewers will know with your father with the Clios and the truck racing and so forth. So now we've got the next generation in. So how did you become involved in this one?
Well, I've always been interested in getting behind the wheel. I started in Brighton Park when the Clio Junior first come out, and I drove that and loved it and had the knowledge to do so. And then we went to a good friend Pete Osborne's house and we found this, and we was like, should have a go, and then we come across it and yeah, loving it.
Obviously, it's a bit of a baptism of fire for you, and you've come to a very busy event. So, how did qualifying go?
Yeah, it was really good. Got a P11, drove the wheels off the car, felt really comfortable in the car, and just managed out of all the laps I did. Usually 1 minute or 59 nines, and then I felt really good about a lap, got my head in the right place, and then just smashed the 59.6. Which took me to, I was P10, but on the last lap I got pipped off the line.
Simon Rudd qualifies on pole position. Scott Parkin alongside Gary Mitchell and Jonathan Baker. Superb performance from John Baker, best of the season, 4th place. Spencer Fortag and Richard Davis next up. Callum Eason, great result, top rookie in 11th. The other rookies, Toby Bryant in 14th, Jack Lee 16th, James Harris 17th, Sean Reynolds 19th, Kirk Young, who we heard from, in 22nd. Also, welcome back to Amy Wallace, who raced with us on the doubleheader here last year. So good to have. There's Amy, just bringing her car into line, 21st position on the grid. Good healthy grid this weekend, once again put on by the championship organisers. I think they've laid on the good weather for today as well. It's great to see the sunshine, dry circuit. Simon Rudd on pole, Scott Parkin is alongside. Out go the lights, quick cast of the eye down the grid, everybody away, which is great to see. In car with Richard Davis from 6th place, going to the outside line. John Baker's having a look at the outside of Gary Mitchell to get maybe a potential pole here. Mitchell's got the inside of the red Mintex car. Lewis Ryan busy chasing as well as they head into the sunlight, uphill towards Druid's hairpin for the first time, and going wide is Scott Parkin. Now in days gone by that would have been into the gravel, but the circuit owners having put tarmac down there. John Baker goes into 3rd, Gary Mitchell now 2nd. Gary 2nd in the championship. Oh, and a little bit of contact there between Lewis Ryan and Branko Kiprovski. It looked like Lewis was trying to go around the outside of the K&N car. Spencer Fortag gesticulates, I think, at Branko, but Branko was on the inside. You might get another look at that. Rob Austin in the 37 car having a go. So in car with Branko, he's down the inside line, and I don't think Lewis Ryan basically saw him coming down the inside. That happens a lot at Graham Hill Bend, or can happen a lot. Looks like the cars are okay, which is the good news as we go across the line into Paddock Hill Bend. Already a little bit of space developing between the runners. In car with Spencer Fortag, 5th in the championship is Spencer, 5th in the qualifying as well. Scott Parkin trying to make up ground, does so on the inside of John Baker on the exit of Druids. Scott will be ruining that one a little bit. As you heard in the interview, missed the last round due to other commitments, and it doesn't count as drop. There are no drop scores in this championship. It is a very, very hard, long championship because, as you'll be aware, if you've watched this before, not only do you get points for the races, but points for every qualifying position as well. So it is very much a relentless schedule that you have to do, and points-wise, with 18 races scheduled plus qualifying session from each event. So there are a lot of scores to build up, and no drop scores, which I wholeheartedly applaud, mainly because it saves me a lot of mathematics, but also the regular drivers are going to be the regular drivers. They're the ones that are going to come and race week in, week out, as Spencer continues his chase of Branko Kiprovski. Race winner, of course, Branko at Croft. Race 2 win, very well deserved, very popular win as well. We've been building a lot of momentum. 4th position in race 1 at Croft, so probably his favourite circuit, I'm guessing. Brands Indy, one of my personal favourites. You can see most of the track most of the time as Simon Rudd continues to lead in the 42 car. Simon with 3 race wins under his belt this year. It's been very spread out in terms of the championship wins. Little moment for Simon Waugh. It's been an ever-present this year, racing hard with Callum Eason. Barry mentioned about the WDE heritage in Clio Cup and also in truck racing, and of course Callum's dad Wayne and indeed mum Jo, both racers, Jo having raced in the British Truck Racing Championship, so he's going to have some quick genes, is that youngster. Here comes Branko having a look at the inside line of Spencer Fortag. There's a gap there, he's gone for it. That was very well read. Good clean racing between the pair of them. Branko Kiprovski passes Spencer Fortag. That is for 6th position. Very neat move. Spencer Ryan next up. Then Richard Avis. You can see the view from Richard's car as they go along Cooper Straight into the right-hander at Surtees. Now with Scott Parkins a little bit further. Scott Parkins a little bit further around, going through Clearways. Very slightly down the dip through Clark Curve and then onto Bradford Straight, which is the main straight here. We're looking at the 3rd place car of Gary Mitchell come across the line. This is going to be teed up for a move here, and Scott Parkin very neatly through on the inside line. Here's the view from Gary Mitchell. Scott Parkin cleanly through. Gary Mitchell giving him the room as well, but going for the cut back on the inside. Gary Mitchell trying to retake the place. This is super racing from the pair of them. Gary a long way from home. His home track was last time out, of course. Great stuff by Gary Mitchell, back into 3rd position, and Scott Parkin very much being given a workout here at the moment. So down into Graham Hill Bend again. Branko Kiprovski is still there, very much in the mix. Here comes Gary Mitchell up ahead of Scott Parkin. Simon Rudd at the moment is building a good lead here. He's got the fastest lap, Simon, 58.725, just a 10th away from his qualifying record. We tend to get fastest lap set in race 1 as the cars take wear out of the tyres, so we'll keep an eye on the lap times as we go through. And Scott Parkin trying to get past Gary. This is for 2nd position in the race and indeed in the championship. Parkin on 368 points has got a lot of work to do to catch up on Gary Mitchell, 2nd in the championship, and both of them with work to do to try and rein in Simon Rudd. This is the first race of the double header this weekend at Brands Hatch. They'll be slowing each other up. This is all very good stuff for Simon Rudd, who continues to lead here on the Indy circuit at Brands. Great battle here for 2nd place. Gary Mitchell at the moment is there. These two battling, and it kind of detracts from Simon Rudd getting away. They're fighting hard with each other. Out of Clark Curve, right in the slipstream of the 44 car is the 3rd place man, but he breaks that, goes to the outside, side by side as they go into Paddock Hill Bend. Is this move going to work? It does. Scott Parkin takes 2nd position. Can he hang on to it? That was very smooth and controlled indeed from Scott Parkin. Gary Mitchell down to 3rd, potentially another 3 points out of the lead that Mitchell has over Parkin in the championship. Scott Parkin took 3 points out of Gary Mitchell in qualifying, and that's another 3 points potentially. You can see Parkin working hard, the back end wanting to flick away. Here's Branko Kiprovski up ahead of Spencer Fortag, the lead 2 cars in the quartet you're looking at, both race 2 winners earlier on in the season. Spencer at Donington Park, round 2, way back in April now. Where's the year gone? I really don't know. And then we've got PJ Gardner busy chasing. This is PJ's 3rd meeting of the season. Started off with us at Donington, 6th, 17th at Silverstone, 9th place in race 2. Great to have him back in this very competitive championship. But it's Kiprovski leading this group, looking fairly comfortable at the moment. PJ's going to have a go on the outside of Rob Austin into Paddock Hill Bend, and he's done it. But he goes sideways. Is he going to hang on to the ABS car? Yes, he does. Well, the first move that we saw with Scott Parkin taking 2nd was great. Gardner's one slightly more spectacular, and not as smooth, but what a move from both drivers. Superb stuff in these evenly matched cars. So PJ Gardner, that was to get him up into 9th place. Gardner ahead of Austin in the Jelson car. Trying to rack my brains as to whether we had Rob in the championship before. Don't think we have, so apologies for maybe not calling him out as a rookie in the start of the programme. We're in car with Chris Wallace chasing Rob Austin now, so Chris again was a regular last year, man from East Sussex, podium finisher at Alton Park last year as well, Chris Wallace, so no slouch. And this is the wonderful thing about this championship, we've got so many, because the cars are evenly matched, get your break at the front, pop in a few good laps in qualifying and you're in with a shout of getting up there. Simon Watts in the 23, now looking at the back end of Rob Austin. In front of him though, it's still Chris Wallace. Chris raced with us at Silverstone earlier on, retirement in the 14th place. This pretty much home track for Chris Wallace as we head towards the closing stages of this race, and another side-by-side move here with Lewis Ryan on the outside of Richard Avis. Going to give a shout out to the man in front of them, Jonathan Baker, home track for him. Good move again by Lewis Ryan. I'll tell you what, there aren't many championships where you see 3 outside passes at Paddock Hill Bend in one race. You don't see it at one meeting normally, but some really good driving standards here being shown, both by the passers and the people being passed. Terrific racing, super stuff. Branko Kiprovski still coming under pressure from Spencer Fortag. Spencer looks like he's closing up. This is Cooper straight into the left-hander at Surtees. Branko not feeling threatened at that moment, came out to the curbs on the right-hand side. Is he going to leave space here? It was maybe half a gap on the inside, but the chaser not quite close enough to nip through on the inside. Back with third place, Gary Mitchell. Finished every single race, I shouldn't say that, finished every single race so far this year. We don't want the curse of the commentator on Gary Mitchell. Hasn't had a winner's been elusive at the moment for Gary in the 43 car. Won here at Brands Hatch last year, round 6 of the championship, and his 3rd season with Focus Cup, so very much at home in the cars, trying to close down on Scott Parkin, beginning to get some of the rookies coming up as traffic. In car with Simon Watts again. So race fairly well settled. Still Simon Rudd with the fastest lap of the race. The race leader will bang another 5 points for that. Even if you non-finish, you still get a point for effectively taking the start. Scott Parkin coming towards us, passing Amy Wallace. Amy had a good run here last year at Brands Hatch. Actually had a 7th position in race 4 of the weekend. As John Baker, this is super stuff from John. Car number 10, the man from Kent, has actually caught this scrap for 2nd position. So John Baker, are we going to see a podium? I'm just looking at John's results on my sheets, and from the start of the season, 13th, 11th, 12th, the results are getting better and better. He had a little bit of a blip at Alton with 15th and 12th, but he's consistently learning the car and getting better as we ride in car with Toby Bryant. Looking at Callum Eason, I very nearly said Wayne Eason then. And Toby in the 97 car looks on the inside at Graham Hill. Callum giving him room. I think these guys are very much enjoying their racing. In behind as well is Jack Lees in the 3rd of the cars, busy chasing at the moment. So wherever you look, as we said, super battles going on. 29 is James Harris. I think he's top rookie in this one. I think Kirk Young is parked up in pit lane. So Kirk, who we spoke to at the start of the meeting, not having a happy debut in pit lane, as Spencer Fortag again tries Branko, and he's got to try and do the long way round. We've seen drivers do it at Paddock. Can Spencer do it at Druids? No, he can't. Hasn't quite got the grip. Branko cuts across, grabs the line on the exit of Druids. Meanwhile, in behind them, Simon Waugh in the 22. Up ahead of Rob Austin, so Simon Waugh making progress as well. Rob, I don't think, he lost a lot of ground a couple of laps ago when he was passed at the end of the main straight. I'm wondering if that car is possibly down a little bit on power. Rob comes through clearways, and Claire Avis was busy trying to get involved there as well. Claire currently in 12th place. On to the last lap goes Simon Rudd, who is well clear, around about 4.5, 5 seconds clear of Scott Park in second. Gary Mitchell is third, Jonathan Baker is in fourth, and we ride on board with the local driver. But there is the race leader going through shot at Druids. Gary Mitchell still chasing. He's going to have a look at the inside line. Nothing doing there for the Mintex car. But the AIM number 10 still in fourth place, John Baker. Previous best, 8th place. What a quantum leap in this race for John Baker. He's going to be delighted with that. Been very impressive to watch from fourth on the grid. But it is Simon Rudd who is looking for another win in the 42 car. Simon won at Castle Combe, he won at Cadwell Park, he took the race 1 win at Alton Park as well, and he's going to repeat that here on the Indy circuit at Brands Hatch. Here he comes down towards the checkered flag. Simon Rudd, around about 5 seconds clear now, crosses the line, takes a 4th win of the championship season. Scott Parkin's still in second. There is Scott. Gary Mitchell third, Jonathan Baker in 4th place. Richard Avis is running well. I'll be next up. We're riding in car with Spencer Fortag, still chasing Branko Kiprovski. Branko still picking up healthy points. Spencer's being challenged by PJ Gardner. I don't think PJ is going to be able to go past. Well, that was a good race to get us underway here at the Ford Power live meeting at Brands Hatch. Only one non-finisher, which was Kirk Young. Hopefully his car will be sorted and he'll be back out in time for race 2. But Simon Rudd takes the win. Scott Parkin second from Gary Mitchell and Jonathan Baker. Richard Avis next up from Branko Kiprovski and Spencer Fortag. Lewis Ryan 8th from PJ Gardner and Simon Watts. Then Simon Waugh, Claire Avis 12th from James Harris and Rob Austin. Sean Reynolds finishes in 15th ahead of Toby Bryant. Callum Eason, Amy Wallace, Chris Wallace and Jack Lees completing the 20 finishers. Let's go and hear from the race winners.
Simon, after the disappointments of Croft there, now first place on race 1 and Brands Hatch doubleheader weekend, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, really happy. Pole position as well, so the points for pole, race win, fastest lap. I couldn't have asked for any more, really.
A good clean race. I mean, to be honest with you, no one could catch you. You had a good clean gap there, and that seemed to build over the first certainly half of the lap, half of the race.
Yeah, I think it was critical for me to make sure that I was going into turn 2 in the lead. Scott and I both got different stages of a good start, so we were going around paddock side by side, and I was on the inside, so I couldn't let him in. And he fell back, and I think that helped me in the end, because then he had to come back through, and he called Gary, and they had a bit of a battle. So for me, it was a case of getting away early and then managing it.
Well, that went pretty well. I think overall podium result, which is always good. How did you feel like?
Yeah, well, started P2, finished P2, so not going backwards is always a good thing at the end. But I did make it really hard for myself at the start. So Simon got a good start in the initial phase. I got a good start in the second phase. Managed to get around the outside of him at paddock. He were a little bit more cautious than I was. But it was never going to work around the outside of paddock. Then we were side by side into turn 2. I braked probably a little bit too late. Pedal went soft, so braked a bit harder, locked up and lost 2 places. So then,
back to 4th, I think, at one point.
Yeah, back to 4th. So then, and I knew that the 2 guys who jumped me were very close lap time wise in qualifying. You know, there wasn't a lot in between it, so I knew I'd got the work cut out then. So it was just a case of keeping it clean, keeping it on the track, and basically just doing qualifying laps every time to sort of get that deficit.
Gary, after the success of Croft, here we are now for a doubleheader at Brands Hatch. Good start to the weekend, a podium place again.
Yeah, consistency still there. Keep my head in the game and just keep pushing on. Be nice to get a bit further up the podium, but points make everything for the end of the season. So it's more compromising for making any sort of mistake and keeping on the podium and keep the points coming in.
Almost a second place. You were in second for quite some time in that race.
Yeah, it was a choice between do I chase the championship points, as in let Scott past and the both of us be quick and try and catch Simon, or do I hold Scott off and get them a few extra points. So halfway through the race I thought no, I'm going to keep the place, and then I thought no, Scott's a little bit quicker, we can both get our heads down and try and catch Simon, which we didn't manage in the end, but we were too busy messing about it.
So the winners, the spoils, will be back with race 2 after this break. Stay with us. Brands Hatch, the perfect venue for Ford Power Live, and the Focus Cup Championship very much a part of that. If you're a petrol head and keen on the Blue Oval, then this has the best of everything. Plenty of show cars, plenty of racing to marvel at as well. Some of the cars on display between races, other cars being prepped. Barry, though, has taken the time to nip down and have a word with Claire Avis.
Claire, been a while since we caught up with you. Now, how's your season gone so far?
Not too bad. I have stayed on track, so that's good. But yeah, I've been at the back for quite a bit of it, so yeah.
It's been good progress overall, though, over the season. Yourself and indeed your husband over the season have sort of moved up not only grid positions but also results. I mean, race 1, 12th position, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I qualified in 15th, which I thought was good for me. There's 22 of us on the grid, and yeah, managed to pick a few people off and moved up to 12th. So yeah, pleased with that.
Shows that bit by bit your racecraft and so forth is improving, surely.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's confidence as well. I do suffer with lack of confidence on a lot of the tracks. So it is about, this is one that I've driven. It's a local one for me, so I've driven this more. So I am more familiar with it. I mean, I won't, say anything too much just in case, but it is one that I actually feel more confident going all over the place on.
Quite a contrast to somewhere like Croft, where it's flat and ex-airfield and so forth, and we've got all the twists and contours here. It's a beautiful track there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's a short track, so there's something about, and because most of the corners are right-handers, and everything's really close together, so it's really one for concentrating on. And I thrive on that. When there's a bit more space, I have time to think, and that's not always a good thing.
If we take it from when you had your first race with this championship to now, how have you changed as a driver?
First ever?
Yeah.
First ever race. Definitely in confidence. I think I feel more at one with the car. I feel more at one with myself. Having never done tarmac racing like this before, I've learned an awful lot, and I think I have progressed, but I still have that confidence issue from time to time, which I'm getting over today because I'm on it.
But it's better to do that rather than go out like a bull in a china shop, isn't it? Like some do and make mistakes. It's better to do steady growth.
Absolutely. I want to improve bit by bit. I don't want to go too far beyond myself, and really just consolidate what I've learned and improve in that way, really.
So 3 events including this one, a double header here, as I say, included in front of a big crowd, and then Donington for the final. That should be a good one.
Yeah, looking forward to that bit. Donington's another track that I've driven more, so hopefully the confidence will be up for that one as well.
Best of luck for the next race.
Thank you very much.
Sean, great to see you on the grid. Race 1 done and dusted. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was a good experience. It's a bit of difference driving the diesel, just trying to get used to the power delivery. So it's really, just finding my feet.
Now, new to this championship, we've not seen you before, but I believe you've done some racing. I think you said earlier in one of the championships years ago, but that's like 20 years. So a bit of a baptism of fire, maybe a bit rusty.
Yeah, so in the late 90s I drove in the Fiesta Championship for about 4 or 5 years, and we decided to have children, so sort of gave up racing after the first one was born, and I always promised myself, once they got a bit older and sorted themselves out, they'll try and come back and have another go at it.
A little bit different in these. Obviously these cars being diesel, they've got a lot of torque and a lot of power, but a bit more weight and so forth. So was that quite a difference, quite a learning curve for you?
Yeah, so the weight's not really an issue, it's just the power delivery is completely different to a petrol car, and you can just completely different gearing. So in a petrol I'm just the hairpin, you've been second in the Fiesta. In this you can take it in 4th and still pull out the corner because of the torque delivery. It's really good.
So you've come back, you're actually going to do all 3 rounds, the 2 here and the one at Donington?
Yeah, Donington was the one I was going to stick to, but then this weekend came up free, so I decided to try and get 4 in as a practice over a weekend. So.
I think you said earlier to me, Donington's your local, isn't it?
Yeah, local to Donington, so I live just off Junction 22 on the M1. So yeah, it's where I learned to race at Donington with Jim Russell Racing Drivers School.
So, there's going to be a lot of temptation for you. Obviously, by the time you've completed some of these rounds, you want to do the next season probably.
That's what I'm looking at. It's just trying to get a budget together to do that. So it's expensive, or it's go cheaper and go back to Fiestas. But I'm erring on the side of the Focuses.
And is it as you remember? I mean, obviously we've only just got one race out of the way, but how did it feel when you sat on the grid there? Did it bring back the memories there, or have you sort of cleared your mind and start again?
Yeah, so luckily we did testing all day yesterday just to get a bit of a feel for the car, so that was really helpful. But still trying to find a bit more pace out of the car, so I've sort of hit a limit at the minute and just trying to figure out now where I can pick some more pace up. I'm about 1.5 seconds off pole, so it's a big chunk of time to try and find.
What personal targets have you set yourself for this weekend?
To try and get in the top 10 on one of the races, but I obviously finished in 15th today, started 19th, but yeah, so target set.
Remember that the result of race number 1 is split into groups of 6 and they are reversed. So Branko Kiprovski, who finished in 6th position in race number 1, starts on pole with Richard Avis alongside. Claire Avis was 12th in race 1, she starts 7th with Simon Waugh alongside her. Amy Wallace finished 18th, she now starts 13th. As Branko Kiprovski leads the cars around on the reconnaissance lap here, ready for round 14 of the championship. There is Scott Parkin, who had a good run to 2nd position in race number 1. Interesting to hear Gary Mitchell's take on the tactics about should he fight for the points or should he work. Maybe it was just a little bit late to think about chasing the eventual race winner Simon Rudd down. There is Callum Eason in his 2nd start here. Rookie Cross resplendent on the back of the car, and Callum starting 14th on the grid for this one, finished 17th in race 1 and 14th here, and adding to his racecraft. Interesting to hear from Sean Reynolds, the ex-Fiesta driver as well, and Callum's family very much, Callum Easton's family very much involved in the Fiesta Championship back in the day as well, WDE Motorsport. I think that's where Jo had her, Callum's mum had her first races in the Fiesta Championship many years ago, and a great championship that was as well. Here we go, lights out. Branko Kiprovski gets away well. I tell you what, beaten off the line there was Simon Rudd. Claire Avis getting the better of Simon Rudd, the championship leader. Branko Kiprovski, though, has been beaten into paddock by Richard Avis, so the Avises having a good start. In car with Lewis Ryan, crowded at Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. That drop, which the cameras never do it justice, the drop at Paddock Hill Bend, if you can get a chance to go around in a race car, it's worth doing. Avis on the outside of Rudd. Richard Avis leading. That was Claire dicing with Simon Rudd. So down at Graham Hill Bend for the first time. Big sort out here, all in close quarter. No contact this time around. Simon Waugh in the 22 ahead of Lewis Ryan. In car with Gary Mitchell, who's going for 2nd position. Here comes Gary Mitchell on the inside as they go through Surtees. There might have been contact with Branko there. Branko keeps it under control as they go through McLaren. There's always a danger that you carry the momentum into the car on the outside. James Harris on the inside of Callum Eason. Harris has made progress in this, already on the opening lap. Scott Parkin on to lap 2. Having a look at John Baker here, excellent 4th place for John. And John, look at that, Parkin goes through on the inside. Needs to get as far ahead in this one. Richard Avis runs wide into Druids. Gary Mitchell 2nd, Branko 3rd. Scott Parkin ahead of John Baker. Claire Avis has now been passed by Simon Rudd, so Rudd still in 6th place where he started, Claire in 7th where she started. Had a great start, both the Avises had a good start. So along Cooper Straight and in car with Claire, focused very much on the championship leader, and again the reverse grid format here. The fact that they reverse the groups means that Claire then gets the chance here to have a look at the overall championship leader and learn from his racecraft in the early stages of this one. John Baker chasing Scott Parkin. You want that position back. Gary Mitchell getting clear of these guys. Branko not defending 3rd, he's on the inside. And Scott Parkin quite happy, chops across. I think narrowly avoided contact there. John Baker getting a little bit of a Mr. Whippy on. Simon Rudd's going to have a look on the inside up towards Druids under the Burton Bridge. Burton Power synonymous with Ford over the many years that they've been running as well. Out of Druids, down in towards Graham Hill Bend. Graham Hill is the name of the drop, down into Graham Hill Bend. The left-hander, they're greeted with another left-hander at the end of Cooper Straight, which is Surtees, as Scott Parkin makes the move on the inside of Branko Kiprovski. Scott finally goes through. Branko's going to try and respond by taking a wide line through McLaren. A little bit of a tap from John Baker in behind. Nothing malicious in that, just very, very close quarter racing. Simon Rudd now chasing John Baker. Kiprovski up ahead of him. Of course, moving up from 6th place if you win race number 1 is a tall order. I guess the fact that we've got qualifying points in the championship kind of negates the not dropped points, but the lesser amount of points potentially you could score in the reverse grid racing with these evenly matched cars. But very well thought out championship. 8th position at the moment is Spencer Fortag. Spencer's made a lot of progress in the opening laps as well. Good sort out happening. There is James Harris up with PJ Gardner, so Harris running well, and we've very nearly got a battle on for the lead because it is Richard Avis there from Gary Mitchell at the moment. Simon Waugh has a look on the inside of Spencer Fortag. There is the REIS car, Schnegger Insurance Services car, having a good go. Lewis Ryan's getting in the mix now as well. There's not a gap there at the moment. It's all frantic stuff, exactly as designed championship wise, or as intended on the second race, which has the reverse groups of 6. Spencer Fortag climbs up Halewood Hill into Druids. Scott Parkin at the head of this group. Simon Rudd still chasing Branko Kiprovski. The battle for the lead with Richard Avis being hunted down now by Gary Mitchell, the man from Teesside. So it's North v South battle really going on for the lead at the moment, with the southern driver holding sway. Simon Rudd wants to try and pick off another place, and having a good look at Branko Kiprovski there to try and take 4th place. It's going to be hard work for him. Richard Avis still out front at the moment. Gary Mitchell has closed on him. Is he going to do a run down the straight, maybe go to the outside at Paddock Hill Bend? I don't think he is at the moment. The inside might be the more favoured run, but he's still building momentum. He's just trying to perhaps suss out where Richard Avis, if anywhere, has a weak spot here around Brands Hatch as they climb up towards Druids once again. Super battle for the lead. The Mintex Mitchell busy chasing Richard Avis out front at the moment, so Avis doing a very good job. Mitchell with the fastest lap on lap 2 still has it intact. I tell you what, you hear so many championships moaning about track limits at Brands. I haven't seen anybody consistently, and there's been nothing on the timing screen to say that drivers have been exceeding them. They haven't here. This has been really great stuff from the Focus Cup runners. And look at this field, it looks really impressive. 22 cars on track. Superb achievement by the race organisers. More and more people seeing the value of coming into this championship, and it's Richard Avis still there. Gary Mitchell in the Mintex car chasing hard. See what sort of a run Gary can get down the main straight. Are we going to see a Focus Cup move on the outside at Paddock Hill Bend? Again, you can see here the undulations of Brands Hatch. It's a wonderful track. Simon Watts up ahead of Sean Reynolds. Simon Walton is in behind. Simon, of course, race winner at Croft. He ummed and ahed about doing that. No umming and ahhing going on here as Simon Rudd tries to deal with Branko Kiprovski. Going back to Simon Walton, he was worried, being championship organiser, about whether he should take the win and go for it, but why shouldn't he? And that's exactly what Lewis Ryan's done. So Lewis Ryan makes up a position. This the scrap for the lead. Richard Avis, defensive line down Graham Hill into the bend he goes, and they've got a bit of a gap at the moment over Scott Parkin in 3rd. Branko Kiprovski still 4th. Simon Rudd is next, then it is John Baker. Claire Avis still in 7th position. It's fascinating stuff. Great race for Claire Avis here. Watch for Claire, there she is. And Claire not that far away from John Baker at the moment. Baker also giving Simon Rudd a bit of a workout, so Simon having to drive on his mirrors, much more so in this race than he did in race number 1. Swerves one way, then the other. And having a look at Branko's, not quite hugging the white line, but certainly over towards it, not leaving a gap on the inside. Baker's going to try high, wide and handsome into Paddock Hill Bend. Here's Gary Mitchell, there's a gap on the inside to Druids, hard on the brakes, and Mitchell leads. The Mintex car leads, but is he going to overrun? He does run wide, but the gap was there, and he didn't throw the car down the inside. That would be the wrong word, but went through on the inside line, later on the brakes, grabs the race lead, and Gary Mitchell, who's the fastest man on track still, takes the race lead from Richard Avis. It was a good opening few laps from Richard Avis. Simon Rudd's going to have a go here, surely not on the outside line at Surtees. He's going to try the blue and white car. Is he going to be able to do it? No, he can't. Branko giving him room, you have to say. John Baker in behind, and then Claire Avis, who wants to have a look on the inside. John Baker still there as well. Good weekend for Baker, good weekend for Claire Avis. Made up 3 spots, as you heard, in race number 1, and doing well here, up with the lead group, as around the outside goes Simon Rudd, the championship leader, trying the outside at Paddock. Meanwhile, Claire Avis coming under pressure from Lewis Ryan, who tries the outside, goes for the cutback on the inside, up towards Druids. Claire Avis moves across, and now the 24 car's got to make his way around the outside, which is what Simon Rudd's trying to do. Branko Kiprovski, Branko again, giving the championship leader room. He has to go over the grass slightly there at the apex of that first apex, down into Graham Hill Bend, and Rudd is through. Fair play to both drivers. And Branko, you've seen in many other championships, drivers will go around Druids, there'll be someone coming on the outside, and the man being chased will just force that car not only onto the curbs but onto the grass. Branko didn't do that. Lewis Ryan having a look now at trying to pass Claire Avis. So fair play, Branko. Great stuff from Simon Rudd, the championship leader. Claire Avis being challenged by Lewis Ryan again. Is there room here? It's very tight. This is where the track tightens up. I tell you what, it looks less tight from the outfield camera as Lewis Ryan is through and into 6th position. Lewis Ryan, 7th place, beg your pardon. Claire was running in 7th, wasn't she? So Claire still in 8th. PJ Gardner chasing Spencer Fortak, who in turn is chasing Claire down into Graham Hill Bend and onto Cooper Straight. We go once to get safety car, and that is why Kirk Young, disappointment for Kirk, retirement in race 1, and he has wound up in the tyre wall. This is bad news for Richard Avis and race leader Gary Mitchell, who are now being closed in on by Scott Parkin and Simon Rudd. So having done the hard work, great for spectators, safety cars, because it closes up the race. Let's have a look and see if we can tell how the incident happened. So from the onboard, we're looking down. So Kirk just lost it. Bottom of, had a lot of momentum, I think, through paddock. Goes off onto the inside and into the tyre wall, damages the car. We saw him out of the car, which is good news. Medical car there as well. But that car will take a while to move. And in fact, we're going to get a red flag. So at this stage of the race, that is going to be a checker, and it means Gary Mitchell will take his first win of the season from Richard Avis and Scott Parkin. Simon Rudd finishes in 4th place from Branko Kiprovski and Jonathan Baker. Lewis Ryan 7th from Claire Avis. Spencer Fortak 9th from PJ Gardner, wrapping up the top 10. James Harris was next from Rob Austin and Simon Watts. Simon Waugh 14th, then Sean Reynolds and Simon Walton. Chris Wallace in 17th from Callum Eason and Toby Bryant. Amy Wallace wrapping up the top 20 fastest lap with Gary Mitchell.
Gary, fantastic, congratulations, great race win there. Richard was keeping you honest on the first half of that race, and then a superb move, and you moved into first place.
Oh, definitely. There was a few laps in planning, but it was working out where Richard was weakest. He was really strong, defensive everywhere, and I just noticed into the hairpin he was getting a bit lax, lap by lap, and he was just leaving a little door. So about three corners in, planned it come off. But the whole race itself, I knew I needed to start from the outside and get a really good start, because once we all get set, it's very difficult to pass like mid-race, just with temperatures and tyres and things like that. So I knew it get a really good start around the outside. I've been really confident into Paddock Hill Bend all day, and it stuck, and it put me quite far up the field just to start hunting Richard down and get the race win finally.
First win of the season. I mean, you're no stranger to the podium, but that's the first one this season, isn't it?
Yeah, the consistency's been really good. I've been there or thereabouts, being picked for pole position for hundreds of seconds and second places, but never a first. So I'm over the moon. I've managed to push myself up onto the top step.
Penultimate round coming up next. Points-wise, we've got to do the totals yet, but it's you and Scott very close.
Yeah, it's been quite nice to try and either just be behind Scott so he can't claw the points back on me, or be in front of him like the last race. Even better with Simon being a few more places down, and especially the last race there where I pushed to get the fastest lap as well. So it's I've picked up some serious points today, and fingers crossed do the same again tomorrow.
Well, what a fantastic race. Some superb clean and defensive driving there the first half of that race, and he just managed to sneak past you, didn't he, to get that first?
Yeah, I mean, I got a really good start from second on the grid. I got into front, pulled a bit of a gap. Gary's a quick driver, and I knew he was going to catch me, but I defended as best I could for as long as I could, and then he just had to drive down Paddock Hill and into Druid. So, clean pass, nothing I could do about it.
Kept you ahead of the rest of the pack though, both of you. I mean, Scott was catching you two towards the latter part, I suppose, but it just shows you've got the pace now.
Yeah. This weekend I like Brands anyway, so he's coming together a bit this weekend. And yeah, we kind of got the pace. I saw Scott catching. Again, he's a quick driver. He's in a car a lot and whatever. But I'm sure the guy's all right who had the red flag. I'm sure he's fine. I'll see him get out of the car. But it was nice to get the red flag and not restart it, because Scott would have been on me just like that. So.
And that's the best achievement for you this year so far, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, the whole weekend's gone really well. Testing was good. We was quick. I think I was second quickest in one of the sessions, and then qualifying. It's so close, but to get P6, that's fine. P6, come in P5th, and then reverse grid. Started second, come in second, but I did take the lead for a while, so happy with that.
Great way to end this round. Next round is tomorrow in front of an even bigger crowd.
Yeah, and tomorrow's another day, isn't it? So hopefully it will stay the same as today, and we do really well. So it should do. It should be fine.
Scott, we meet again, another podium position there. Pretty good race overall. Those two took some catching. You were getting there, but we just needed those extra rounds again.
Yeah, I think there were 2 minutes left when the red flag came out. I think I probably needed at least 3 to get round Richard. It was a good race, had some good battles, got held up a little bit at the early phase of it, which allowed them to get a little bit of a break. Richard did a really good job of holding Gary up for quite a few laps, and then he got round him, and then that was sort of the end of it really. When the safety car came out, I thought it could work in my favour if there were a restart, but I saw the extent of the damage to the barriers and thought we're not restarting this, so it's a shame really. But I got a really good start right between Baker and Gary, and I just saw the gap disappear and I had to back out of it, so that was a shame really, because I think I would have probably made 2, maybe 3 places up at the start, because everybody else seemed to sort of bog down, and I made a really good getaway. But that's racing, that's what happens. So.
Gary's again got another success. I haven't done the maths, we'll get confirmation at the end of the programme about championship points, but with Simon back there, it's still all to play for, isn't it, as we go into tomorrow's round?
Yeah, I were hoping you wouldn't remind me of that, because I think really Gary's my main rival now. Simon's quite a bit ahead, so it's Gary who I'm focusing on. So yeah, definitely didn't want to see him be a place in front of me, 2 places in front of me. But this is racing, it's a long day. I think the conditions might be a little bit more mixed tomorrow as well, so we'll see what happens then.
Well, I couldn't resist ending this round by catching up with you again. That's got to be one of your best achievements so far.
I am ecstatic. Yes, I worked really hard for that, and I'm really, really pleased. Yeah. So started 7th on the grid with the reverse grids, and got up into 6th, and then I did lose a place, but managed to finish 7th. So yeah, I am super stoked and a bit dizzy. So yeah.
When I spoke to you earlier, you were talking about confidence all the time. Obviously, that gives you more confidence. We can see you've got the ability and it's growing, but surely you must be starting to realise it.
I know I've got the ability. I know I can do it. I've done it before. It's just a confidence thing. And days like this, where I feel I'm one with the car, and I know that I'm on it, and I'm in the right frame of mind as well to do it. It just makes a massive difference, as I proved. So yeah, definitely.
And a great way to end the day for the Team Avis in the Swan Flight cars.
Absolutely. Super happy with my husband. Really pleased for him. He came second. So yeah, a 2nd and a 7th in the last race. I think that's great. Great day for us.
Simon Rudd retains the championship lead here on day 1 at Brands Hatch from Gary Mitchell and Scott Parkin. Lewis Ryan is 4th from Spencer Fortak, but into 6th and 7th respectively, Richard Avis and John Baker. Happy faces on the podium here at Brands Hatch. Please join us for day 2 next time. Bye for now.